All right, morning. I see we've got almost everyone here. Morning, Ruse, The Verge, White, Bugles. I see, and some of you are enjoying those emojis. Which one, Lisa, is you and which one's John? Oh, I know. And Coulters and Uncles and Dukes, Kings. I'm not sure, Kim and Dale, if y'all is from a Canadian term or not. I think that's more a southern Jeremy type of term. But Kelby seems to have picked it up well. I noticed that you didn't get the A from her, A. So, good morning. Notice the different background today. I've been messing with the phone lines in the house. And so now we're back up in the office. So we'll see if my modem and my fix works and I don't get cut off before the end of our time this morning. Morning, Lovatos. And I see it as 9:30. So let's go ahead and start 3 months. Good morning, good morning. So let's start with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Yours is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. All right, so this morning, I'm probably going to do more reading from the passage than giving you some things to think about, rather than telling you a lot of what I think about. So let's start. And in order to work with this in Numbers 14, which is what is for today, is the continuation of a story. So I got to kind of go back and take some from Debbie's chapter from yesterday, chapter 13. So I'm going to start reading so we get the whole story and start the beginning of chapter 13. So then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Send out for yourself men, so that they may spy out the land of Canaan, which I am going to give to the sons of Israel. You shall send a man from each of their father's tribes, every one of them leaders. So Moses sent them from the wilderness of Paran at the command of the Lord, all of them men who were heads of the sons of Israel. These then were their names: from the tribe of Reuben, Shammua the son of Zachor; from the tribe of Simeon, Shaphat the son of Hori; from the tribe of Judah, Caleb the son of Jephunneh; from the tribe of Issachar, Igal the son of Joseph; from the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea the son of Nun. Now I'm not going to go through all those names because I'm going to be stumbling. Those guys don't seem to be very important. But the two that are important for our story is Caleb and Hoshea. And down in verse 16, it says, These are the names of the men whom Moses sent out to spy the land. But Moses called Hoshea the son of Nun, Joshua. Now that's Hoshea means salvation. But Moses changed it to Joshua, and that means God is salvation. So it's kind of just a interesting little side note that we know about Joshua, but I hadn't known that was the name that Moses gave him. His given name was Hoshea. So picking up again, so So Moses sent them out to spy out the land, and he wants them to find out about the people there, the land, what it's like, the towns, cities, villages, fortifications, anything like that. So they go out, they travel throughout the land. They got maybe 40 days of traveling throughout the land. When they returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days, they proceeded to come to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation of the sons of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. Now, if I was Moses, I would not have my spies come back and give me a report in front of the whole congregation. That just doesn't seem like the smart thing for Moses to do at this point. And I think he probably regrets that a little later here. And they brought back word to them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. Thus they told him and said, "We went into the land where you sent us, and it certainly does flow with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. Nevertheless, the people who live in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and very large. And moreover, we saw the descendants of Anak there. Amalek is living in this land of the Negev, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites are living in the hill country, and the Canaanites are living by the sea and by the side of the Jordan." Then Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, "We should by all means go up and take possession of it, for we shall surely overcome it." Now, this is the first time we get to see a little bit of Caleb's character here. So I kind of get the idea from this passage, from this verse here, and from some of what other times that we see Caleb. When I read a book, not just a Bible book, but any other book, I try to. Well, what happens in my head is I get a picture of the person, and there's a movie going on in my head of what's happening. So I get the idea that Caleb is someone. He's probably a little bit shorter than everyone else, a little bit stockier. His shoulders are probably about 4 inches wider than anybody else. He's one that has been getting into scraps since he was little. As a spy, I don't think he was very good. I picture him as the 12 spies are hiding behind bushes and stuff and looking at these giant people. They're having to hold Caleb down by the back of his neck, 5 of them on top of him, because he doesn't want to spy out. He wants to go attack this huge person and just get it over with right then. He wants to start the attack. He's not a person who's going to run from conflict. He's not a person who's going to be afraid of something or someone that's bigger than he is. And we'll find out a little bit later one reason why he's like that. So Caleb quiets the crowd, people, before Moses. "We should by all means go up and take possession of it, for we shall surely overcome it." But the men who had gone up with him said, "We are not able to go up against the people, for they are too strong for us." So they gave out to the sons of Israel a bad report of the land which they had spied out, saying, "The land through which we have gone and spying it out is a land that devours its inhabitants. And all the people whom we saw in that are men of great size. There also we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak are a part of the Nephilim, and we became like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight." So these guys were afraid. They were looking at the people, they were looking at the circumstances, rather than looking at their God. In this, they were allowing the circumstances, the fears, and then they were using those fears to convince the people that they were right. We see that sometimes now, where people use fear to get everyone else on their side. Fear of the government, fear of leaders. You make it so that it looks like there's something to be afraid of. Then you can get people onto your side, and that's what we should be afraid of is doing wrong in God's sight, and we should fear the Lord our God, not people. So now here we go to today's chapter 14. Then all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. What a reaction. Crying and weeping. All the sons of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole congregation said to them, "Would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would that we had died in this wilderness." Remember that wish. God's going to grant them that wish. "Why is the Lord bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our little ones will become plunder. Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt?" So they said to one another, "Let us appoint a leader and return to Egypt." Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces in the presence of all the assembly of the congregation of the sons of Israel. Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, of those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes. And they spoke to all the congregation of the sons of Israel, saying, "The land which we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord is pleased with us, then he will bring us into this land and will give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not fear the people of the land, for they shall be our prey. Their protection has been removed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them." But all the congregation said to stone them with stones. Then the glory of the Lord appeared in the tent of meeting to the sons of Israel. And the Lord said to Moses, "How long will this people spurn me, and how long will they not believe in me, despite all the signs which I have performed in their midst?" And then God says he's going to destroy them and make Moses into a great nation. And then Moses prays for the people. And God answers his prayer. So the Lord said, "I have pardoned them according to your word. But indeed, as I live, all the earth will be filled with the glory of the Lord. Surely all the men who have seen my glory and my signs which I performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, yet have put me to the test these 10 times, and have not listened to my voice, shall by no means see the land which I swore to their fathers, nor shall any of those who spurned me see it. But my servant Caleb, because he has had a different spirit and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land which he entered, and his descendants shall take possession of it." So the title of this devotion today is "A Different Spirit." So Caleb has a different spirit. God identifies him as having a different spirit. Now, a couple questions that I had was with Caleb and with Joshua. Both of these guys are the only ones that are going to be allowed to go in, of the people living at that time, 20 years old and older, who will be allowed to go into the promised land. What has made them different? And then a second question, these guys didn't just all of a sudden pop up different. Who were their parents? These guys had to have grown up in a way that shaped them to be who they are at this point. Joshua's had the mentorship of Moses for some of his growing up, but they had parents who brought them, who helped to form their early years. Um, I'm sure Caleb's parents were probably really frustrated with him because he does have a different spirit. Think about your kids. Which of your kids has a different spirit? Always getting into a scrap. But Caleb's different spirit leads him to follow God fully. And that following his different spirit and following God fully allows him to be kind of unique in the sons of Israel. In he does not look at his circumstances around him as something to fear. He fears his God and follows his God fully. So I thought it was important that God mentions Caleb specifically there. And maybe you might think again about your own children and the ones that have a different spirit. And I know with my second graders, I can think of some of those kids who have a different spirit that if when God gets a hold of them, that different spirit is going to cause them to follow him fully. Now, 40 years past this point, we see Caleb again. And at this point, Joshua is handing out to the tribes of Israel their inheritance in the land. And Caleb doesn't wait very long. He comes forth and he says, I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land. And I brought word back to him as it was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren who went up with me made the heart of the people melt with fear. But I followed the Lord my God fully. Then skipping down a little bit further. Now behold, the Lord has let me live, just as he spoke these 45 years. From the time that the Lord spoke this word to Moses when Israel walked in the wilderness, and now behold, I am 85 years old today. I am still as strong today as I was in the day Moses sent me. As my strength was then, so my strength is now, for war and for going out and coming in. Now, then, give me this hill country about which the Lord spoke on that day. For you heard on that day that Anakim were there with great fortified cities. Perhaps the Lord will be with me, and I shall drive them out as the Lord has spoken. 45 years later, not only is Caleb not changed physically, but his heart is still the same. He is still following the Lord as God, and he still remembers what his report was back then and what he said about the promised land back then. And he says, those people are still there. Those giants. My God's goal for me hasn't changed. The Lord wants me to go in. My Lord has said to go in and remove those people. He still believes that God is with him and will help him to drive those people out. So, Caleb, a different spirit. So another thing about Caleb is that we don't see him, even though he had leadership qualities, he definitely had an enthusiasm for the Lord. we don't see him trying to take over leadership because he wasn't, he may have been a good leader, but I think he was a better follower. We do need good, godly leaders. But I think it is just as important in our congregation and in the church as the big church is to have good followers who have their eyes on Christ and do not fear the things around them, but have the fear of God and the fear of not the fear of not following God fully. So I hope we are. My goal today was to get us to think a little bit more like Caleb, to be enthusiastic followers of Christ, to have a different spirit as we follow Christ, to not be swayed or influenced by fear or those who are trying to get us to be afraid, but to keep our eyes on Christ. So let's continue with our tradition of reading the Aaronic blessing. And I'm going to turn and find it so that I say it right. Well, that's helpful. So, God said to Moses to tell Aaron and his sons to bless the children of Israel in this way. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to turn towards you and be gracious to you. May he turn his countenance towards you and give you peace. So go in that peace today. Be like Caleb. Have a different spirit. And be a little mindful of your children who have that different spirit too. So thank you, and see you tomorrow.